Just to record. And just because we've got the recording going, if anybody does want to ask a question that is personal and sensitive, we can stop the recording at any time. So, to start us off, Mollie, thank you for joining me. Why don't you start by telling us a bit about your journey, how you've got to where you are now?
Yeah. Yeah. So my journey was a bit of a surprise for me. I worked in a corporate company. That's where Kerry and I actually met. But this was earlier on in my career where I was working in consulting. And for me, I thought I was thriving. I was like, doing really well career-wise. I was socializing. I was living in London. I was having lots of fun. I was particularly healthy. I was training for triathlons and had like no idea really what was going on. And I then, yeah, lost my period for 4 years and had no idea what was going on. I think after the first 2 years, I was like, this is kind of convenient. There's not really enough noise around what that really means. And the doctors said to me I wouldn't be able to have children, and they had no idea why. I was then diagnosed with PCOS, and my symptoms just got worse. So my weight was all over the place. I was feeling anxious in times that I didn't previously find stressful. My brain fog was really bad. I was falling to sleep in client calls. I was just craving so many different foods. I was tired a lot of the time. And I guess like this was just a huge awakening call for me of what was happening. And I did get diagnosed with PCOS and have changed lots of things from there, but I didn't realize any of this. I didn't realize where my health was or what was going on. And when I got to this point, I pretty much came obsessed with women's health and just listened to every podcast, read every book, and changed quite a few things in my life. It was lots of little changes consistently over a few years, and my period actually came back naturally. And the doctors were thought it was pretty much a miracle, which is where my inspiration for coaching came from because I didn't get a lot of support from the healthcare. I didn't really understand anything of what was happening, and I was told you couldn't have children, you just need to move away from the city, it's too stressful, and you need to just eat differently. That was pretty much the advice that I was given. So for me, I guess why I'm so passionate about this is that often you don't really know what's building up inside of you and you push through. It can feel convenient, and eventually over time, it really isn't the right thing to do. And for me, a period is like a health report that you have every month. It says so much about where you're at. And I wish I'd taken more awareness of that before and not had to go through the struggles that I wanted to. So I'm hoping from this session, like we will give you some indicators of what to look out for, but also some support in terms of what you might be experiencing in your body when you're feeling some of these and not to ignore them, and often why we do ignore them.
Amazing. Thanks, Mollie. And thought it would be useful just to share a little bit about my journey. I know some of you will know this, but for those that don't. So for my journey, I have to go all the way back to February 1992 when I was born. And I was born with a clicky hip, which means my left hip ball socket doesn't quite sit in properly. So it clicks. But what that has meant is I have one leg shorter than the other. So my left side is shorter than my right. But despite that, I had various ops when I was a kid. But when I hit school, I was on every sports team. I played netball, I played hockey. We wanted to play rugby, we wanted to play football, but back in the 90s, girls weren't allowed to do that. But I played every sport that I could. And I was offered some quite invasive surgery to essentially reset my hip, and we decided against it because it wasn't stopping me doing anything at the time. But that kind of triggered in me a love and a need for fitness, and that has continued throughout my whole life. But that being said, being a 90s baby, I have had bad relationships with food throughout my teens, especially not eating carbs when we were told that carbohydrates were bad and we shouldn't eat them. eating really low calories to get in my dress for prom and all those sorts of things. And that did stay with me into my 20s as well. I went on a gap year and I put on a lot of weight while I was away because I didn't do any exercise and I was drinking and eating and living up my life in Australia and Asia like you do. But when I got back, I was so unhappy with how I felt in myself. And I then went the other way and I was running loads. I'd always been a runner. And then I went to uni and then it all dropped off again. So my weight has fluctuated over the years. And I used exercise as a regulation for me, really. It was my way of de-stressing through exams and everything like that. It was my way of release. But I was always quite scared of going to the gym. I had a boyfriend at uni who kept telling me that I should go in the gym so that I could build some muscle. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Girls don't go in the gym. That's just going to make me bulky. So I was really against doing that. But then moving forward, I moved to uni, I graduated, moved to uni, moved to London, sorry, in 2015. And that was a whole nother challenge for me in my life. I was miles away from home. All the friends I'd made at uni were from in and around London, so had lots of their own home friends. And I found it quite lonely and quite isolating when I first moved here. So I did what I have always done. I turned to fitness. I found a football team and I used that to build a network of friends and connections that I didn't have in my job. I ran half marathons and all of that. And again, I found a way of de-stressing and regulating my life through fitness. Then COVID hit and I was doing at home on Zoom workouts with my mum, which was fun. We were alternating who was organising them and we were doing 20-30 minute exercises. And I found weight training can be quite good. And post-COVID, I then turned to strength training as my number one thing I wanted to do. And I since then have fallen in love with the gym. But alongside all of that, I was working in a corporate job. I moved around a few times through organizations, but I was in the consulting world, so having to juggle lots of client stresses, social life. I was traveling for about a year in one job back and forth to Madrid, basically living out of a suitcase, the struggles that come with all of that, trying to find a boyfriend thrown in the mix as well, just all of those things all together. But the one constant that I kept turning back to was fitness. So in where are we now? 2024, I got myself a coach. I'd hit a bit of a plateau in what I was doing myself. And I thought, I need a bit of a push. I need some accountability. So I got a fitness coach and I found a real love for that connection, that relationship and the way I was working with her. And all of a sudden, all the bad relationships that I'd had with food previously had gone. Something changed in my mind about mindful eating and actually associating food as fuel and not seeing food as good or bad, but just nutritious or less nutritious. And I really enjoyed all of that and everything that I learned. And then if we fast forward a little bit further, this time last year, I hit a massive knock in my corporate job. I was sitting on what we call the bench, which means I was without any project work for 4 months. And that really took it out of me. And fitness took a back seat for the first time. And I didn't really know why that was happening. And then before I knew it, I hit a wall and I was burnt out. And that's when me and Mollie started talking about coaching. And I decided in the summer that I had to leave that world. And this is where I am now. So that brings us up to my coaching life and how Mollie and I are now, we've started as colleagues, friends, and now coaches. So that's where we've got to. So just going to pause there. Does anybody have any questions for either of us at this point about any of what we just talked about?
I think as well, I just wanted to add that, like, I think with all of the journeys that like everyone has, men and female, but specifically women, everyone's journey is so different, and signs look very different, and motivation looks very different, and our bodies are very different. And I think it's the reason why we wanted to share this as well is because our stories is so different, and the reason why we're now coaching and the type of coaching we do varies. But hopefully by the end of this call, you'll at least know how to like look at your body or symptoms in a certain way, and just the importance of, if you are going to set a goal, what that goal is and how we understand the driver for it, because everyone has, yeah, different motivations, different journeys, and different reasons why they are in the position that they're in. And it's important that whatever you do is tailored and supportive of you and your body. So if there's any questions that you have about our journeys or anything more specific about you, like please do feel free to jump in and we'll help if we can.
I think for me it's a bit different because I'm quite a bit at the other end than you lovely ladies. But I've always been interested in health and fitness. I grew up with three brothers. We played football in the street. We climbed trees. It's what we did back then. But I've always done it. But it's maintaining it, isn't it? Keeping on that level because up and down, your weight goes up and down, up and down. Then you have children and your body changes again. But I do genuinely love health and fitness, and I'm interested in the food I eat. But I do think the last few months it's changed a lot about the way I feel about food, and I've realised different things about it. Whereas I've always thought I was reasonably healthy anyway. But
Mm.
it's funny how just little things can change it and make it better, so that you can, I don't know. Hopefully, I'll maintain, what I've been doing. I
Definitely.
don't I don't think anything sort of like spurred me to do it. I just don't know. It's just how we are sometimes, genuinely just active people, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think I think that's like a really good point, because the work that I do with clients is on like more about long-term change. Like, okay, how do you get to your weight loss goal, or how do you get to your specific goal? But how do you sustain it over years? Exactly like you were saying, when you become a mum, when you become a wife, when you change jobs, when you go for a divorce, how do you keep these things that are so important to you? And a lot of it goes down to your identity, how you're identifying with different things. And I get so many people come to me and say, I'm just not an active person. I'm not an active person. I find it really hard to get my steps in. But if we perceive ourselves to be that way, it's going to be really hard to shift that habit. And it's all about, yeah, what is the identity of someone that gets you to where you want to get to, but maintains, like you said. I have people come to me and say, but I'm just someone that snacks. I'm someone that snacks. I love grazing. It's just what I do. I've done it for years. But actually, because that's what they say they are, they identify with it.
Mm,
And then if we start shifting the snacking, it's really challenging. So I think just hearing what you were saying there about, you are someone that's active, you are someone that enjoys food, you are someone that likes to fuel themselves. It's so important how you talk to yourself and how you identify with these things as you start working through more of a sustained change.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I don't think
Cool.
we quite realise the importance of what we put in our bodies, do we, sometimes?
No,
Mm. And it's all right to have a snack now and again. It's all right to have a little bit of the things you want, but when it's constant, it's not great in lots of ways. Yeah.
completely. Yeah.
Mm.
Cool. Gonna keep us moving just for the time. So, um, next thing what we want to do is just talk about some of these signs that we could be ignoring. So, just wanted to open this up to the group and pop something in the chat if you can. But based on your own experiences or your feelings, do you think currently there is any signs that you could be ignoring from your body? There's no right or wrong in this.
No, I think sometimes that we can like just be doing too much and then we don't realize that we're not feeling as good or as like I mean like I said to you the other week I didn't feel very well, but there were signs before, but I just
Mm.
didn't stop. I still carried on. And if
Mhm.
I'd perhaps listened to what my body was telling me, I might have recovered a bit quicker or not moved on so much. I mean, I wasn't desperately ill, as you know, but just these little things like that. And we should sort of think, well, actually, I'm not feeling quite so great today. I should take a bit of time out. Or
Mm,
and we don't always do that. I think we don't. We're not always good at that.
Mm.
definitely. I'm guilty of doing that.
Mm, yeah.
We've got some
Okay.
good ones in the comments too.
Oh,
Tiredness, bloating, craving sugary snacks. Yeah. Sleep disturbed.
I don't know how to do comments. Sorry.
It's
You're
okay.
fine. You're talking to it.
Yeah, these are really interesting ones like tiredness, bloating, craving sugary things, and even you put there craving so sugary snacks as reward. I think that's such an interesting thing that you said there because not only is there that physical craving, but there's also that emotional connection with you having it as a reward. And that is that kind of relationship with snacking and food. And when that comes up for you, what emotion is driving that? What is it that you're looking for from that? And being able to switch it with something that actually feels supportive rather than does the opposite is quite challenging at times. So I think these are so relevant.
Yeah, definitely. So so just to go back to what I was talking about with my journey, some of the signs that I personally ignored. I had constant fatigue. I thought I was just tired from work, but actually it was more than that. I too had bloating and inflammation. I was losing weight from working out and eating better, but I just felt fluffy all the time. And actually, what my body was doing was holding on to water due to stress, which is actually such a common thing that our bodies go into a fight or flight scenario and want to protect. So we hold on to water for that reason. Um, I was wanting more sugar. Like I have a sweet tooth, but I'm not really a snacking person. And I just wanted sweets in an afternoon. And I had to stop myself from going out and buying them a few times because I was like, I don't need this. But it was something that I didn't notice at the time. And one of the biggest things for me was I lost interest in going to the gym and doing the things that I enjoyed. And it actually wasn't until Zach, my partner, pointed out to me that I used to get up to go to the gym before work. I hadn't got up for over a week in a morning to go to the gym, and I hadn't noticed that I'd done that until it was pointed out to me, which was completely out of character for me. So there's some physical and some of the behavioral signs that I ignored. Then a few more on like the emotional and the mental side. I felt flat and just quite numb at times, and I couldn't shake this feeling of just being sad. I thought it was just the weather or my time of the month or something like that. I couldn't really pin why I felt flat. And I mean, I'm still a bit like this, but constantly thinking, not being able to switch off, but not being able to make a decision on anything. I'm that friend that's like, just make a decision. And I was unable to do that, especially at work when I was in that period of unsettled when I was on the bench. I was finding it really difficult to have confidence in myself and my ability and being able to be decisive with clients. And the real nail in the coffin for me was crying. I cried in a meeting to a senior colleague out of just sheer frustration. And I'd been holding on to that emotion and I just kind of I boiled over in that meeting. And that was the point where I was like, okay, something is really wrong with me. But there'd been build up before that I had definitely been ignoring, and that it got me to that point. Mollie, anything that you would
Mm.
add from your side on this?
Yeah, there's a few, and I think it's really interesting hearing you say all of this out loud because when you hear when I hear you saying this out loud, it's like, wow, how did you not realize? And I think that's like the biggest thing of, I always feel the same every time I say some signs that I was experiencing. In the moment, I was completely ignoring them. I just saw them in silo and just thought, it's fine, it will pass. It is what it is. Everyone experiences this. And I think it is important for you, if any of you are hearing any of these, like just write them down and say them back to yourself and see how that feels. And for me, I resonate with most of these, and sometimes there's even smaller things like doom scrolling loads, like sitting in the evenings and just like doom scrolling, like not wanting to go out, not wanting to do something productive, noticing that I'm just like having this escape through my phone of trying to get away from something, less spark and like excitement. And sometimes that can happen by, just being busy with work or the weather, but if you are just feeling like less inspired and less yourself, and just knowing that you have this low energy, I think is usually a sign. A negative thinking, yeah, lots of like fearful thoughts, like all or nothing thinking, not really being able to see the positives, like everything feeling very heavy. And I'm naturally quite an optimistic person, so that was quite a noticeable shift for me. But again, like something that I just thought I had to push through of, it's just a period, you just need to reframe, you just need to, do all these tools that you can find online, but it just wasn't working. I think lack of energy was a big one. Like I went from doing quite a bit of training to just, even the thought of doing like 10,000 steps was so challenging. I was trying to run and I just couldn't. I was trying to do HIIT workouts and my body was just like in this like panic all the time. Yeah, snacking. I just felt like really hungry all the time. Like I never felt like I could actually control my hunger cues, which is such an indication of potentially like a fluctuation in your blood sugar levels, but also under fueling, eating the wrong things, being in fight or flight, and just like weight fluctuating. Like from week to week, I had no idea of where I was at, even if I was doing the same consistent thing. And then I guess for me, the biggest one was my menstrual cycle. My menstrual cycle was completely off and was non-existent. And that is, I know obviously there's, people at different points in terms of their hormones on this call, but if you are someone that has a cycle, that is your health report like every month. So if something doesn't seem right, it usually is an indication that something is going on for you.
Thanks, Molly. So, what we want to go to next is thinking about what it is we tell ourselves that might actually be deprioritizing our health. So, again, just to open up into the group, pop your thoughts in the chat again. What do you think currently your biggest barrier is, or what's one excuse that you're potentially telling yourself? I do hear that a lot, Mum.
I agree with that.
No time.
It's my age. I hear that a lot. A lot. Most of the clients I work with are like 14 over, and I hear it all the time.
I think for me, it's sometimes just like thinking, for example, like bloating. I'll be like, oh, I'll be fine tomorrow. Or like, I know that I've got a knee, definitely something wrong with my knee. And I'm like, well, it's not causing me so much pain. It'll be fine, kind of thing. So they just like pushing it off, kind of thing.
Yeah. Time, everyone feels it. Yeah. These are good. Okay. So in the chat, put a 1 if you have said it's just a busy period in the last month. Yeah. Okay. I think that's everyone. Next one. Gonna put a 2 this time, guys. Have you said other people have it worse? Yeah. 2's coming in.
I said too because I've forgotten, can't find how to type it again. It's gone.
You're all good.
You're going to have to
Okay.
give me a lesson on this.
Number 3, there's a theme. If you've said, I'll deal with it after, insert X. Okay, I think that's, yeah, everybody. And then the final one, number 4. If you have said, this is just what it's like being a woman, a mum, a leader, insert female phrase. Okay. I think that's everyone for everyone, Mollie.
Yeah.
So do you want to just talk us through why these might be important?
Yeah. So we wanted to mention this because I think that they're so common. I know we use the word excuses and that kind of makes them sound like a bad thing. But I think they're all so normalized. And I hear it all the time with my clients, and I did it massively with my period. It's just another month, it's just another month. And 4 years down the line, I was still saying the same thing. And I think a big thing to ask yourself is, what would your life look like in 6 months' time if nothing changes? So I'm a big believer that you're either moving forward or back. Nothing really stays the same, even if it's a small symptom. It could be doom scrolling, but if the more you continue it, the more that habit builds, the more you get something from it, and you end up doing it more. If it's around snacking, well, I've just had to snack because I've been not able to make my lunch because work's been really busy. But again, the more that you fuel that, the more it's going to happen and the more your body responds to it. So a big question that often I explore with clients is, yeah, what does your life look like in 6 months' time if you keep using these excuses? And take yourself there. If it's bloating, if it's snacking as a reward, where could that actually get you if this is ignored or that thing continues? How many times have you said it in the last few months? Sometimes people say, oh, it's just this week. And then if you actually look back over the past few months, you've said it 3-4 times every single month. So that's 15 times when you've deprioritized your own health. And then you're building this whole habit loop that you're not going to prioritize you. And it just becomes less and less of an importance. Assess whether there's a wider problem we need to address. So the reason why I put this is often we resort to quick fixes. As humans, as soon as something goes wrong, we try and fix it as soon as possible because we don't like sitting in discomfort. And it could be snacking. Snacking is a great one that I see all the time. And people will say, well, I've just got rid of all the snacks. It's fine. I've just got rid of all the snacks. It doesn't matter. Next week will be fine. I'm not as busy at work. And having a supportive environment is key. It makes it a lot easier. There's less willpower needed. But actually, if you're snacking as a reward, you're snacking as a stress relief, you're snacking as a distraction, what you need to work through really is, what is that emotion? What's happening with that emotion? What is it trying to tell you? What is it that you need in that moment? Because that emotion's still going to be there, and that quick fix doesn't happen and doesn't result in long-term change. So really assessing, what is it that is going on for you, and noticing when you're turning to these quick fixes. And then understanding the impact and accepting that these are coping mechanisms and not our identity. So the reason why I said I've put this is that, people might say, I don't have the time. I think a couple of you said that, but we do all have time. It's more about how we're prioritizing it. And, some of you might have kids and families and jobs. Most of my clients are like very high performing, got multiple kids, very busy people. And there's a lot of conversation about how they identify with time and how they identify with being busy. And it's just important for you to just be aware of your excuses and know how that's dictating the habits that you make. So often people will say, I don't have the time. And we look at the food prep that they're doing, we look at the meals that they're eating, and they're completely overcomplicating their meals. They feel like they need to be eating perfectly balanced meals every single time. And actually, it's okay, is time the problem, or is it the fact that you're trying to be perfect when you're cooking these meals? And actually, as Kerry said, food is for fuel, and that's what we want to try and work through to make this easier. So excuses are there for a reason. Often they're a coping mechanism, often they're what we think we should feel, but you're not don't give yourself permission to challenge them and really understand what's going on for you. But they're so common. We hear them a lot.
Absolutely. Just gonna keep us moving then. So next thing we wanted to do was just touch on, okay, we've talked about some signs and things we might be ignoring, and the importance of seeing where we are in the future and imagining that. So what we wanted to do now is just break down where you could start if you're experiencing any of this, what you can do about it in the immediate term. So Mollie, why don't you start by telling us how you do this with some of your clients?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to kind of paint a big picture and be slightly generic because obviously I'm not sure what all of your goals are. But I think the biggest thing is to know your why. So depending on any of you, whether it's to lose weight, whether it's to have a healthier period, whether it's to feel more energized, whether it's to remove or reduce bloating, I want to understand why that's important to you, because often we just say that we want to improve something and then we start improving it and we forget the pain that it once brought to us, and then our habits aren't sustained and it won't be a long-term change. So getting really clear on, why do I want to lose weight? Why do I want to reduce my bloating? Why do I want to have a better relationship with food? All of those things are so important. So step one is, naming what's happening and why it's important that that changes for you. And then assessing why now. Why is now the important time to change? Because again, if you've got all of these excuses that are saying, I don't have the time, it's not a priority, if you're going to make this change, it has to be a priority and you have to be committed to putting yourself first and making some changes. So getting really clear on the deep why. If I lose weight, I will feel more confident. Feeling more confident is important to me because I would like to perform better at work. And currently, my lack of confidence is preventing me from putting myself first. And so, really getting clear on your driver for this. And then the second step two is about awareness. So, after this call, I would just write down, what is it that you're experiencing? So with the bloating, for example, when is it that you notice bloating? And just write it down. Write down, I feel bloated today. And I would assess basic things. Start assessing nutrition. How is your nutrition? And that's breaking that down. That's, 3 balanced meals. What's happening with the snacking in between? What kind of food are you having? And then how are you sleeping? How are you moving? And how energized are you feeling in the day? And just starting to make a bit of or create a bit of an awareness on what could be some of those trigger points that we know. And that's where you can start breaking this down. If it's something around losing weight, it might be, okay, what do you notice about your current situation? What do you notice about your nutrition? What do you think are some of the barriers in you losing weight? What do you find hard? When is it? Is it the fact that you eat out and you socialize a lot? Is it the fact that you don't know much about nutrition and what fuels you? Is it the fact that you are really struggling with snacking? Is it the fact that your appetite's completely off and you feel your eating's very dysregulated? So really listening to your body and understanding what it is that you want to change, but also what's going on. Because a lot of clients will come to me saying that they want to achieve a certain thing, but actually what they really want is very different. Then not jumping straight into like fad diets. I personally think there's so much online of like supplements you should have, certain diets you should do, certain things that you can drink, all of these like very I guess like unique trends that are coming out, and a lot of them serve a purpose and they are good, but usually we're not getting the basics right. So if you're looking to regulate your cycle, if you're looking to reduce bloating, if you're looking to improve energy, lose weight, usually it can start with breakfast. What breakfast are you having? What are you drinking first in the morning? How much sleep are you getting? Really making sure that you get those basics down first before you look at anything externally. And then creating a space to notice habits, just keep building that awareness and notice some habits that you do have. And then 3 is understanding. So I know this is really vague because I'm not sure where you're all at your journeys and what it looks like, but make sure you get the right support. So it might even be that you follow a health coach online and make sure that like that health coach you trust, you resonate, they are living the same life as you. I think there's so many people online now that talk about all of this stuff but don't really live by the advice that they're giving. If it's that you're looking for a PT, making sure that they do have that background knowledge in women's health. If you're looking for just more information on your hormones, go to your GP, ask for some blood tests, see if they can interpret it for you. If it's specifically on bloating, is it the fact that you might need to go to a nutritionist to understand inflammation? If you are, yeah, I mean, with my clients, it can be anything from like PCOS, losing weight, acne, energy, routine building, lifestyle change. Just make sure that you go to someone that gives you that support. And also outside of that, it might be that you don't need expertise. It might be that you just need someone to hold you accountable. Is there a friend? Is there a friend that can help you change a habit? Is there someone that you can go to the gym with? Is there someone that you could send food photos to kind of like, have that accountability? Just making sure that when you start making a change, motivation is going to come and go, and it is really difficult. I think that's the hardest thing that I see people experience. They get really motivated, they start seeing a change, things don't move as quickly as they want to, or they put all of this pressure and expectations on getting somewhere, and they enter this valley of despair and they quit. And the quitting is like the worst thing to do. If you can navigate the difficulties and the discomfort, you'll come out way stronger the other side, and often it will be a lot more sustainable. So I think about my journey, and yeah, the amount of times I was just like, okay, maybe kids isn't for me. Maybe I need to forget about it. I'm just gonna do whatever I want to do. And I entered that valley of despair a lot of the time. And yeah, I guess my deep why was super important for me of wanting to have kids eventually. So just making sure you have these tools if you are going to go on a bit of a shift to help you through it.
Amazing. Thanks, Mollie. So
Pleasure.
just to finish us off, wanted to just leave you with some key takeaways and some questions to just reflect and consider outside of this call. So first one is just like, is there anything that your body has been trying to tell you? And like Mollie said, maybe take a moment just to write that down, really think about it. And then what is it that you really need? That again, what is that why? And then the next two are interlinked. So what are you currently pushing through and why? So what is it you're doing and why that might be happening? And importantly, are you looking for that quick fix? I know we've touched on that already, and so many of us jump to that quick fix, but is that what you're looking for, or is it more than that? And if nothing changes, how would you feel in 6 months? So if you are exactly the same as where you are now in 6 months' time, how are you going to feel about that? And just to say, if you would like, I've created sort of a women's health checklist, which touches on some of these topics around sleep, stress, a whole host of different things, and created it into one document that you can rate yourself on. So if you'd like a copy of that, just chuck a me in the chat, and I'll make sure that we can send that over afterwards. So just to finish us off then, wanted to just open the floor. So if anybody's got any questions or anything for us, or want to share something yourself, please, the floor is open now.
It would be good to know from any of you, like whether you put it in the chat or anyone can say it out loud, of like listening to any of this, is there anything that you have heard and you think, yeah, this is actually something I should explore, or something that I wasn't aware of or would take away from this?
Oh,
Alex has got her hand up.
You've very politely put your hand up.
Yes, sorry, I'd popped it up beforehand. But no, definitely, I think I wasn't really expecting much to resonate, really. But then actually, yeah, when you ask some of those questions to yourself, there are things that you think, oh, actually, yeah, I hadn't really thought of that as a sign. It was just something that we all experience. But actually, yeah, should I be doing something to change that? And my question was for you, Molly, and if it's not too personal, I was just wondering, I guess, what change you made that you feel like had the biggest impact. I know it's often a lot of little changes that all add up, but I guess if there's one thing in particular that you sort of look at and think that really made a difference.
Yeah, I think for me it's both physical and mindset. I actually am like very passionate about the mindset side of things. Physical for me was sleep and rest.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important as a woman to get as much sleep as you can, but also recovery. And I think that's so important because rest and recovery is not just about how long you're in bed for and how much you're sleeping. You know, sometimes you can need recovery from an emotional perspective, a social perspective, a creative perspective, a sensory perspective. And I see it a lot with my clients, but I was noticing with me is that I had this job, it was very intense, it was very heavy, lots of socializing, and I had like no creative outlet. And I'm not particularly a creative person, but actually for me, that was like a release. It was like a mental recovery. And if you struggle a lot with anxiety or stress or like intense days where you're in this like fight or flight drive mode, it's so important that you have those outlets. So for me, I think the ability to rest and sleep and really recover was so important. And then breakfast. Breakfast was a massive thing. As women, our cortisol is naturally very high in the morning. So if you're then training fasted, if you're then going into work and you haven't had breakfast and you have a difficult meeting or you have a coffee on an empty stomach, your blood sugar just spikes and then you often drop. And that drop is where we feel fatigue, we feel cravings, we feel low mood, we feel irritability. So it's not to say that would happen to everyone, but breakfast can set your appetite for the entire day. Breakfast is probably my biggest meal. I have like fish, mackerel, egg, bread, everything. And I find that actually that shifts my appetite for the majority of the day. So I think if there's two things, it would be like rest, recovery, and breakfast, and protein is a big thing. But then just from a mindset perspective as well, like asking yourself those questions of what is it that I need? And sometimes that's what we ignore. And I think it can be quite a difficult question, but yeah, what is it that you need in those moments? And we can go into autopilot of like scrolling, snacking, having a drink, putting the TV on. And sometimes it might be that you need comfort, you need connection, you need some fresh air. Just really getting into that habit of connecting with yourself on how are you feeling each day, how are you feeling in your body, and what is it that you need. And I think the more that you can do that would just help you manage your health journey way more sustainably than it feeling like a phase and then it's disintegrated with your life. I gave you quite a lot there. I know you asked for one, but
No, that was great. Thank you.
Just to jump in on that as well. Oh, sorry, Alex.
No, go
just
on.
to jump in, for me, the recovery piece is really important as well. I used to be very bad at giving myself rest days from doing exercise. I used to think, oh, I'm fine, but actually, I force myself now to have at least 2 a week, and that is, I will go for a walk, and I'm still active in those days, but I used to be really bad at not giving myself that, and I actually think my performance has improved by giving myself the extra time. So we don't have to push go all the time. You can see results by actually doing slightly less, because it's then quality over quantity.
I was just going to ask around like the hormone side of things. It's not like I was mentioning to Kerry, like it's something that I've seen more on Instagram and like types of exercise at certain times of your like menstrual cycle, different like food habits and stuff like that. I just wondered what your take is on it.
yeah, I think you shouldn't be doing anything. I think there's that thing on the Instagram of like, you should do these things. And that's where the whole awareness thing comes in for me of, yeah, you have a cycle and you feel different things at different point, but it's completely tailored to you and your body. So the reason why there is this idea of shifting intensity food is because our hormones fluctuate. So when our hormones fluctuate, we can feel less energy, more fatigue, more emotional, and then other ways where we can feel more motivated, more confident. So there is that natural shift that we have in our body, and some people can sustain a consistency throughout. Some people might feel more sensitive to certain things. So I would I would just do an assessment on yourself of how do you feel from an energy perspective. I would say like energy, hunger, and I guess just mood, like really simple throughout your month, and then just plan accordingly. So if you notice that, like for me, my energy, even like my anxiety, which I don't struggle too bad, but I notice like more negative thinking the week before my period. I notice like way more bloating, I'm way more tired. So I will just make sure that I bring in things like I will socialize with certain people that I know are easier to be around. I will probably have like a bath a little bit more. I'll have some more self-care. I'll do more yoga-y things than the week after my period. So fluctuating things is definitely supportive, but there's no right or wrong answer. Like I see women that actually have complete different type of symptoms during their cycle. It's more about what you need in those moments. And the things to tailor are definitely movement, definitely like self-care, definitely like social plans, and even like work. Like I don't know how much autonomy you have over your work, but I personally try and have like I plan certain clients at certain times of the month because I know that I find them challenging, and the week before my period, I just yeah, the brain fog is crazy. So it's just doing that, but it's all about doing it for you. There's not a particular phase in which you should do certain things. I would take that like I would empower you to do it for you in terms of what works.
It goes back to your point about like awareness, doesn't it? So it's probably just a bit of logging and awareness that I probably used to do in the next sort of month or so.
Completely.
Thank
And
you.
and like your relationship with it, I think that's so important. Like I see so many clients the week before their period when you're a bit more bloated, you have low energy, and all of this like judgment comes in. They're like, "Oh, I couldn't get my steps in today. Oh, was thinking about food more." But it's completely normal. So I think it's even like applying that compassion as well at different points and not identifying with it. Like I notice that people identify with often a week when they don't feel particularly motivated, and they're like, oh, well, I'm a lazy person. And I'm like, you're not a lazy person. It's just that that week your hormones are lower. You don't have the same amount of energy. Don't identify or feel guilty or judge yourself for changing throughout the month. Just build that awareness, build your life to support it, and then know that it's just something that you go through and kind of take off that judgment at times.
Well, any other thoughts, questions?
Is there anything that people would want to know more about? Like we're thinking about doing like a series of these. Is there anything that people would love like a deep dive on or any more information?
I
Really
guess
not
like
sure off the top of my head, but yeah.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say like nutritional stuff, like you said you talked earlier about like there being so many supplements out there, which I totally agree with. You go into Holland and Barrow and you can literally get everything and anything.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
But maybe a bit of a steer on like I think a few others mentioned like tiredness and fatigue. So maybe different nutritional things that could support kind of that side of things. I'm a person that likes to gym in the morning, so
Okay.
like uh I take my overnight oats with me, that kind of thing. But I'm only doing that because that works. Whereas if you were like, oh, have you tried this? Have you tried that? I'd really welcome that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think link like that of I think I feel quite self-aware of some of my symptoms of my cycle, but I wouldn't say I know really anything nutritionally or things that I could do that would help that, like which foods reduce bloating or
Mm.
things like that. Like if there are certain things that you can do to sort of help with those symptoms in the
Mm.
cycle, then yeah, that would be useful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do like just an overview generally on it would be like a traditional cycle, but I think that would bring at least some awareness to what you're likely to feel, and then when you're feeling those things, what would be supportive from like a nutrition and movement perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely sleep as well.
Okay.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, I'm hearing so much about sleep. I don't know, do you take magnesium?
I do, and I sort of change the at the moment I'm taking a powder. I think it's called something like heavy metals or something in it. So I change it up and it works for a while, and then my body kind of gets used to it.
Okay.
And so then it doesn't. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to try a different magnesium, and I'm just like, is it actually working, or is it just that I'm more tired on some occasions than others? I don't really know. I'm not convinced. Like sometimes I'll take ashwagandha and then that
Yeah.
works, and then
Mhm.
that seems to tail off. And all these things are like they're so expensive. And if
Yeah.
they're going to work, that's fine. But if they're not, or they're not going to work for a long term, then there's no point. And so yeah, I probably get, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours sleep maximum. So I sort of start off my day tired, and then by kind of 3 o'clock, that's when I'm looking for things to kind of
Completely.
raise my energy. Just like, I know this is bad.
Yeah, but it's not bad, you know, it's your body, like it's completely normal that your body's like that. If you're getting poor sleep, your stress is going to be way higher, your blood sugar is going to be all over the place, your insulin's going to be all messed up, and then of
Yeah,
course you're going to be craving. So it's not your fault. It's just how can we work through your sleep in a way that is sustainable. So I
yeah,
think like a topic on sleep would be, I've
that'd be
heard the
amazing.
magnesium cream is good, but I don't know if you've tried them all.
Is that the cream you put on your feet?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of my clients have that, and that's been the one that's like worked for the most people. It's been the cream
Oh,
on the
right,
feet.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, honestly, I have a whole cabinet of various things. So maybe I should go back to the football.
Cool. Thank you for that feedback though.
Fab, I've just noted a few of those down, Molly, so we can add them to our list moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, we can draw things to a close there, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you have enjoyed this. And yeah, look out for more in the future. Molly and I do want to make these a more regular thing moving forward. So if you think of anything else in the meantime, drop one of us a message and we can add it to the list. But appreciate it's getting a bit late now, so I will let you guys go. And thank you so much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Nice to
Thanks
meet
so
you all.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.